Hello, this is a recap of an Indian movie called Tara the Mean Part. Please don't forget to subscribe. Ishan is an 8-year-old imaginative kid, widely known as a troublemaker among his mates. He fails every subject and is the lowest ranking student in his classroom. He is in his second year of 3rd grade, and by the looks of his report card, he will have to repeat the same grade again. In contrast to Ishan, his elder brother Johan is an idle student. Outside studies, he plays tennis and is competing in the upcoming interstate tennis championship. Ishan frequently gets in fight with the neighborhood kids who bully him. One day, a kid's mother complains about Ishan's behavior to his father, Nandi Kishore. He has to embarrassingly apologize to the kid and his mother. After they leave, he shoves Ishan to the floor to discipline him. Although Nandi Kishore loves his children, he is too harsh on Ishan. He believes that Ishan's low scores and inability to do basic tasks are because of his laziness. The next day at school, Ishan's English teacher asks him to read a line from the book. He tries his best but can hardly form a word. He has difficulty in understanding the letter, but the teacher mistakes it for him being a brat. When she repeatedly urges him to read, he yells gibberish and is sent out of the class. It's not a new thing for Ishan to be punished. In fact, he spends most of his time outside rather than studying because the teacher thinks of him as a disturbance to the other students. That day, Ishan hadn't done his math homework. To avoid facing the math teacher, he runs away from school and spends the entire day wandering around the neighborhood. He enjoys the day to his fullest, buying ice cream, spending time by the sea, and analyzing the passerby. By the end of the day, he returns to his school bus without anyone noticing his absence. At home, we see him make a beautiful painting. Ishan loves to paint, and his imaginative mind helps the cause, resulting in over the 2 pages. Later, his mother Maya tries to torture him and make him to do his homework. She notices that his handwriting is awful and he can hardly spell anything right. She associates his inability with the laziness and scolds him like everyone else. The next day, Ishan will have to provide his teacher with an absent note from his parents. Scared of getting in trouble, he begs his brother to write the note for him. Johan makes him promise he will never skip school again and writes the note. The kid shows it to his teacher, who doesn't question its authenticity. He also pretended to cough to make it seem like he was actually sick. That day, the math teacher surprised the kids with a test. Ishan is handed the test paper, but to him, the letter looks like they are dancing. The first question asks him the multiplication of 3 with 9. In his head, the kid imagines the 3rd planet Earth and the 9th planet Pluto fighting each other. He fantasizes about the Earth destroying Pluto and rationalizes that the answer is 3. Leaving the rest of the question blank, he submits the test. When asked by his friends, he confidently claims that he enjoyed the test thoroughly. The next day, Nando Kishore returns from a business trip. Ishan is overjoyed by his father's return and hugs him dearly. However, during breakfast, Nando Kishore finds a fake absent note from the day before. On investigating, he finds out about Ishan running away from school and wandering alone in the streets. The very next day, the parents go to meet his teacher and the principal, who condemn his behavior in class. They also find out about the recent math test and its result. The principal assumes Ishan is a special kid who needs to be sent to school for children with disabilities. Nando Kishore is horrified at the thought of his son being disabled. Both parents are worried about their kid's future, so they decide to send him to a boarding school. Ishan is completely against the idea. He rebels and cries, begging them to keep him home. And although the parents do not want to be separated from him either, they do what they think will be the best for him. That night, Ishan dreams of losing his mother in a crowd and wakes up screaming. When she tries to calm him down, he promises to study harder if they let him be home. This breaks Maya's heart, but Nando Kishore is adamant about his decision. The day finally comes when Ishan is taken to the boarding school in the countryside. He will have to share a dorm with the other children and will only be allowed to meet his family once a month. It's a nightmare for the 8-year-old who has never been away from his home. The hostile warden welcomes him by declaring that his old ways won't be tolerated here. After touring the school, the family leaves with a heavy heart. Ishan just watches their car drive away with teary eyes. He stays like that for several minutes even after the car vanished from his view. When it starts to get dark, he walks inside the hostel while still crying. He doesn't talk to anyone and hardly eats dinner. At night, when he can't sleep, he goes to the bathroom and cries quietly, missing his mother. Meanwhile, Maya reaches home and goes through Ishan's belongings. To her dismay, she finds a flip book of him being taken away from his family. The book breaks her heart as she realizes how much the kid dreads being away from home. In the hostel, Ishan struggles to do normal things like tying his tie and shoelaces. On his first day, the Hindi teacher, Miss Tawari, makes him sit on the first bench with the class tutor, Rajan. The teacher soon realizes that Ishan isn't normal. He hardly pays attention in class and physically punished by his art teacher. Nothing changes from how he was in the previous school. He is always sent outside the class as a punishment and exalted from the class activity from ruining it. With time, he gets so frustrated that he tears his book apart and throws them into the pain. He stops trying to do better in school and goes into a spiral of depression and self-loathing. When his parents come to meet him after a month, he locks himself inside the room and bursts out crying for the first time since he last saw them. Of being urged, he runs outside and takes several laps of the basketball court to rebuild. The family takes him to a hotel for the night to give him a break from his life at the hostel. Johan gives him a hamper of painting supplies as a gift, but little does he know Ishan has shut out his creative side and stopped painting altogether. The next day, the family bids him farewell and leave him alone yet again. Later that day, Ishan is the lowest he has ever been. He looks down from the terrace of the school thinking about how it feels to jump from that high. His only friend Rajan interrupts his thought and tells him about their new art teacher. Ishan doesn't think much of it because no teacher has ever helped him. However, it's surprising to the kids that the new teacher Ram enters the class in a Joker costume. He sings a song, plays flute, make them dance and let them enjoy the class. In contrast to all other teachers, while the old Ishan would have loved it, the depressed one doesn't participate in any of it. As their first task, the students are asked to draw or paint anything they want. Ram wants them to show their creative side so he knew what he has to work on next. The children start to draw several things, all different from one another's, but Ishan doesn't even touch the paper. Initially, Ram assumes that the kid is taking some time to think, but even when the class ends, Ishan's paper is blank. Worried, Ram asks him what is wrong, but doesn't get a reply. That evening, Maya calls to talk to Ishan, but he only holds the phone to his ears and doesn't say anything. He is informed that they will have to postpone the next visit by a week because of Johan's tennis competition. To Ishan, this only confirms that his family doesn't care about him. He sheds a single tear and walks away without saying anything. The next day, Ram sees Ishan kneeling down outside the classroom. Intrigued by his behavior, he asks Rajan about him. Rajan reveals that Ishan has difficulty understanding letters no matter how hard he tries. Ram teaches in a school for disabled children, so he has an eye for kids who are special. To find out more about Ishan, he goes through his old notebooks and finds a pattern of similar mistakes. Even while teaching the special children, he can't get the thought of Ishan out of his head. He used to have the same problem in his childhood, so he feels sympathetic to the kid. Weeks later, he recognizes what Ishan's actual problem is and travels to his hometown to meet his parents. They welcome him and let him take a look at Ishan's bedroom. Ram is surprised to find out that Ishan used to paint. This makes him even sadder, that the kid lost his sparkle because of the pressure that was put on him. Then the cashier belittles his son, claiming that he's lazy and hates studying. Ram retaliates and shows them the pattern in Ishan's mistake. He often inverts the letters as if he has difficulty differentiating them, till the father associates it with laziness, but Ram blatantly claims that he is wrong. He declares Ishan has a neurological condition called dyslexia that causes him to not understand certain patterns like letter and words. In addition, he has difficulty coordinating, which causes him to not be able to tie his shoes. The kid must have been suffering so much because no one understands that he couldn't read worried and assumed he was just being lazy. Linda Kashur thinks is Ram calling his son a retard and lashes out of him. To make him understand, Ram asks him to read foreign letters written on a box. When Linda Kashur is scolded for not understanding the letter, he finally realizes what his kid must be going through. Still, he refused to acknowledge that his son can make a living out of his only passion, painting. Ram is determined to prove him wrong. When he returns to the school the next day, he teaches the kids about all the famous historical figures who weren't so good at studying when they were children. He gives them examples of scientists, actors, and philosophers who makes Ishan feel a lot better about himself. When Ram asks them who invented the light bulb, Ishan speaks for the first time in weeks and answers Tom Edison. Ram sees a shimmer of hope for the boy to learn. Later that day, Ishan is by the pond when he uses rubber band and leaves to make a working pool. Ram is so impressed that he brings the structure home and they keep it as decoration. Ishan's creative senses start to flow again, but he still has a long way to go before learning to study like the other kids his age. One day, Ram goes to the school's principal and tells him about Ishan's problem. The principal suggests they send him to the school for children with special needs, but Ram is confident that Ishan can study with the regular kids. He suggests the teacher understands the kid's problem and help accordingly. When the principal says it's not possible, Ram offers to teach Ishan every day after school. The principal allows it for the sake of the child. Starting the next day, Ram uses various innovative methods to help Ishan definition letters of the alphabet. They learn using sandbox, play-doh, sensory methods, and so on. Ishan also takes help from audiobook and stares to learn to calculate in only 2 months. He begins to understand the letters that the other teacher couldn't teach him in several years. One day, Linda Kashur comes to school to talk to Ram and post about how they are researching more about their son's condition. He wants Ram to know he is not an absent father and he is proud to be the way he is. Ram, on the other hand, blames the father for being the reason the kid lost self-confidence, which even Linda Kashur can't deny. On his way out, he sees Ishan trying to read from the note, regretful of unknowingly hurting his child. He tears up and can't get himself to face him. A few days later, Ram organizes a painting competition for both teachers and the students of the school. Everyone gathers in the amphitheater and participate. Ishan uses the painting supplies that he was gifted by his brother. For the first time, the competition starts and everyone gets busy drawing. Even the teacher enjoys the event and does their best. By the end of it, Ishan creates a beautiful painting of himself sitting by the pond. He goes to the front to submit the painting and sees that Ram has painted a portrait of him. He is left speechless at the sight. A while later, it's announced that the winning painting will be on the front of the new edition of their yearbook. The principal proclaimed that the decision was difficult because 2 paintings stood out the most, Ram's and Ishan's. In the end, Ishan is declared the winner while the second prize goes to Ram. The crowd erupts in cheers. For the first time in his life, Ishan feels recognized for his talent. He can't help but cry and runs to his teacher to hug him. In the last scene, Maya and Nanda Kishore come in the school for the end of the year parent-teacher meeting. The principal boasts about Ishan's talent, showing them his painting on the front of the school yearbook. Unused to the new attention, the parents are left shocked. The principal also praises Ram for doing a great job teaching the kid in the way he needed. Later, the parents meet Ishan's teacher, who shows them the report card and compliments the kids and undeniable progress. Outside, the couple watches their son playing and cry tears of happiness. Nanda Kishore thanks Ram for helping Ishan and apologizes for his behavior. Leslie. Ishan bids farewell to Ram and goes back to his hometown for a vacation.